So last time on the exam, there were quite a lot of questions, or at least there were some questions that were to do with definitions. So if you asked to define something, like define cybersecurity, for example, then they're looking for something fairly precise that defines what that is. So try to avoid sort of woolly language on that. So it doesn't matter if you don't quite get this exactly the same, but this is the definition for cybersecurity. So the processes, practices, and technologies that are designed to protect networks, computers, programs, and data from attack. So you don't have to get all of that stuff right. If you just said that cybersecurity are the processes that are designed to protect data files on computers from attack, that would almost certainly be absolutely fine. But this is the kind of thing that's an actual definition that you should be thinking about trying to learn on that. So then thinking about some other things on cybersecurity. So they might ask you to talk about social engineering. So all these things are to do with social engineering. So social engineering generally is to psychologically try to trick people into giving up some information. So that could be by this idea of blagging. So it could be someone talking to you, phoning you up, talking to you in the street, trying to get you to sign up to something that you're not sure about, trying to get you to give some personal details. So what they're interested in is your details, things like your bank account, things that they might not be able to find out easily without you telling them. And definitely if they could persuade you into giving your passwords, that would be a real problem. Phishing. So phishing's the same sort of process, but generally done via email or SMS text messages. So if you send an email to 1,000 or 1,000,000 people, if only a couple or 300 of those people respond and give you some information, then you're doing okay. And as a criminal, you might gain quite a bit of information from doing that. So phishing emails tend to be not very well formatted. They're trying to get you to give over information quickly, trying to force you into doing something or persuade you into doing something by giving your information. So they might try to get you to log into a website that is not necessarily the correct one, which is where we come into the idea of farming. So they might try to redirect the IP or the domain name of a website to a scam website that looks legitimate. The phishing email might take you to this site. It might look like your bank. It might log in a similar way to your bank, but it's not your bank that you're logging into. You're just giving away your credentials, username, password. So a bit less high tech. You could just look over someone's shoulder to try and find out what they're doing. It's called shouldering. So just looking over the shoulder, trying to get a PIN number usually or something like that. So if you're at a cash machine, you might look over someone's shoulder, get the PIN number, and then if you were able to get their card, then you'd be able to use that. So all of these techniques are social engineering type of techniques. And these sort of things they might ask you to define. So then a few more on the same kind of topic. So malware in this case. It's a general term, malware, for things like viruses. So they could ask you to define a virus or say the difference between a virus and a worm. So viruses, they can replicate, they're hidden in another program, whereas a worm is a standalone piece of software. So it's just a piece of code. It doesn't need anything intervention-wise. You don't need to keep clicking on it or anything to replicate it. It can just replicate itself. So they often don't do anything apart from clog up the entire system. But that can really slow things down and cause problems, especially for businesses. Trojan pretends to be a legitimate piece of software, so it's hidden, something's hidden inside it, and it looks like it's a real piece of software. Perhaps you download it and want to install something, but when you do, the Trojan can run, or it can run at a later date. So it could be an attachment to an email or an install file that looks like a program that you want, but it really isn't. So then spyware is just designed to try to find out information about you, a bit like the other sort of social engineering techniques. It can record actions potentially, so it might even be like a key logger that looks for your keystrokes. And if someone knows what your username is, the next thing you're going to type after that is usually your password, which could be quite useful to a criminal. Often these programs send data back via the internet to the person who has deployed the application. And ransomware, probably not strictly in the course because it's a bit newer, but it could be that you could use this in a question answering the idea of protecting networks, etc., from malware. So ransomware, programs that encrypt the files on a computer and then demand like a ransom, a payment, before they can be unlocked. So all these kind of things are just definitions. So you probably be really useful to have kind of either a set of flashcards or something similar that's got definitions and words on, or at least a list and a set of definitions that you can learn about various topics.